The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of Bronxnet or the program underwriters.
Bronxnet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
And hello and welcome to the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime. And of course, you are watching Open, that one and only show that brings all of the best and the Bronx and the world. Coming up in our legal corner, should there be a law that healthcare workers be vaccinated during flu season? We'll discuss that with our legal correspondent. Plus, Van Cortlandt Park is starting their fall season with a volunteer kickoff, and the executive director will be here to tell us about what things will be happening in the new year. And doctors at NYU Cancer Center have one message: take care of your breast health, and we'll get you some more information in regards to that. Finally, 10 years of restoring the Bronx River, and they're just getting started. Learn how they're celebrating the first 10 and getting ready for the future. So stay tuned, because all this and much more is heading your way, because right now we're officially open. Hello, Bronxites. I'm your host, Daren Jaime. Today is Wednesday, September 21st, 2011. And of course, you're watching Open, the one and only live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York straight to your TV set. So feel free to give us a call. It's 718-960-7241. Or you can send us an email to open@bronxnet.org. We also want you to let us know that you can hit us up, by searching on Facebook under Open Bronxnet Television, and Twitter by following our page at Bronxnet TV. Well, kicking things off today with the new fall season comes definitely weather changes, and for many, that means an allergy season and trips to the doctor. Well, what about the ones who administer the medicine, like vaccinations? Should they be required to get vaccinations themselves? Our attorney and legal correspondent, David Lesh, joins us to continue his constitutional law series, and good to see you.
Nice to see. It's been too long.
It's been too long. I know, but we're back in the saddle.
We're back, and we're going to be in the next couple of weeks, maybe a few months. We're going to talk about some constitutional law issues. I felt today's topic was timely, given the fact that many people are going to start thinking about flu shots, and the issue always comes up every year: should the healthcare workers in New York City be forced to have a vaccination for the flu shot? And
this is controversial.
Very controversial. Anytime you're forcing somebody or attempting to force somebody to do something to their bodies, you're going to have a constitutional issue. Remember, whenever we're dealing with constitutional law, it's a balancing. It's always a balancing of the individual's rights against the rights of society as a whole. And that's really the crux of constitutional law. Well, in this particular instance, you're talking about balancing the rights of the healthcare worker against the rights of society as a whole. Healthcare worker to not have somebody do something evasive or invasive to their body, against a society who wants to protect themselves from a flu outbreak. Right? So that's really what you're talking about here. New York attempted a few years ago to be the first state to mandate that healthcare workers be vaccinated, and it was struck down. But this always comes up every year. Other states deal with it by allowing workers the opportunity to be vaccinated, not charging them, giving them time off if they're sick so that they can recover, doing everything they can to make sure that the health of the healthcare worker is first and foremost, so that they don't come in and then spread the flu or whatever germs that they have to the people they're taking care of. But the question becomes, do we as a society have the right to force people who are dealing with the public to have some type of vaccination? What you're running into is the Fourth Amendment, the right against search and seizure. And the issue that we always end up having with constitutional law is private entities against public entities.
How do we get to the part of search and seizure when you're talking about something like vaccination?
Because you're searching somebody's body, seizing somebody's body. That's really the right against unreasonable searches and seizures is the right against somebody else to seize your body, to search your body, to force you to do something to your body. That's the constitutional protection of one of the Ten Amendments. It's the hallmark of the Bill of Rights. It's one of the things that was put forth by the founders. And that's usually what's cited when somebody says, no, you can't force me to have a test or force me to have vaccinated. It's an unreasonable search and seizure. It's as if you're frisking me.
Right.
It's the same type of thing. Well, we then say, hold on a second, let's go through some of the statistics here. 2,000 people a year die in New York as a result of the flu. Right? It is true, and some of the statistics I have, is that healthcare workers, 42% of them do get vaccinated, which is higher than the 33% of the general community that gets the flu shot. But the 42% is not as high as the elderly, who between 65 and 70% of get the flu shot. So you would think the healthcare workers would be as high as the elderly,
right?
Percentage-wise, but they're not.
So percentage-wise, really, the public isn't really taking full advantage of these flu shots.
Well, that's correct. And what it really comes down to is this: that there's a side that is against flu shots, and the side that is for flu shots. Well, what is the arguments against the flu shot? You can't imagine there would be any, but there are. Mm-hmm. First of all, the argument is, well, it doesn't really work. It only works for 70% at most. 30% who get it, it never works anyway. To that, other people say, well, hold on a second, 70% is pretty good. And for the 30%, a lot of times if they had it the year before, that may end up working against this strain of flu shot. The second argument is, well, it mutates. So even if you get the flu shot, there's a good chance that, again it's not going to work. And why are we wasting our time with this when it could be bringing on other colds that you may have? Well, that's not true, because what they're putting into your body is a dead virus. It's not causing the flu. It's not causing a cold. It's a complete misconception. Mm-hmm. Another argument is, well, it has thimerosal in it. This has been linked to autism, but there's never really been any study that has ever shown that thimerosal actually causes autism. Fourth argument is, well, I'm pregnant and it could hurt the baby or my unborn baby. Well, again, it's never been proven that it does or it doesn't. So this is an issue.
So now, for those who that's the against argument.
The pro is look, if more people get vaccinated, there's less of a chance of there being any type of spreading of this contagious condition. And if we could get more and more people to do this, then those with chronic illnesses who are more susceptible, like you and I may not be as susceptible as those people who are in nursing homes or those people who are in hospitals, we make sure that they are protected. And you as a healthcare worker, have an obligation if you're dealing with these people all the time. And here's the issue. The argument is for 48 hours before having the flu, you don't even know that you have the flu and you're contagious. So it's not fair to the people you're working on if for 48 hours before you don't even know you have the flu, and yet you're giving it to somebody that you're working with.
So the issue goes to court. We're in court. Where do things stand now?
So what New York State tries to do is institute legislation to force the vaccinations on healthcare workers. We're talking about the public sector right now. With respect to the private hospitals, well, a private hospital can always ask their workers to do it. It could be part of the employment. And that's the thing with constitutional law. It usually doesn't affect the private industry as much as it affects the public sector. Privately, the courts say, hey, you can do what you want. You want to hire somebody and they want to work for you and you want to put on certain limits. If you're not violating a lot of the constitutional rights, the protections that they have, we don't see a problem with that. And we're thinking if somebody comes to work for you voluntarily, yes, you can say, you want to work for me? Well, then you have to get a flu shot. We don't seem to have a problem with that. But when you're talking about the public hospitals and public employees, and you're asking a public employee to come in and have to have a mandatory flu shot, we have a problem with that. And we're not going to mandate that now. We will say we will not, the federal government might say, we won't accredit you as a hospital if you don't at least provide flu shots, or we'll do other things to squeeze you, which is what the federal government does to force you to comply with constitutional issues. But we cannot, as a court system, mandate that we cannot allow you to force somebody else to get vaccinated. So it's a very sticky issue. It comes up every single year. And remember, anytime I'm going to be doing these series on constitutional law, different topics, there is never going to be a clear-cut answer.
Right.
That's the point of constitutional law. It's always a debate.
So this will be something that will be debated for some time.
It's always going to be debated, and that's the interesting part of the constitutional law series, is you never really come out with an answer. You're always going to be debating back and forth. Now, there may be more rules and regulations that come in. New York may say, look, you have to give more sick time, or you have to allow employees to be able to take more time off to get their flu shots. There'll be inroads, but there will not be any clear-cut legislation.
So we're not going to see any final answer.
No, they will not. New York will attempt,
right,
the way they did with the seatbelts, to keep pushing and pushing it until finally it gets past the court system, and the court system would say you can mandate that people wear seatbelts. For a long time, we as a society said, "Don't tell me I have to wear a seatbelt."
Right.
And it's a constitutional issue. You can't force me to do something to my body that I don't want to do. I don't want to be restrained. You're restraining me. Well, finally, the state made a good point and said, hey, you don't wear seatbelts, you get into an accident, we pay for it as a society. We pay Medicare and Medicaid, and therefore it's coming out of our pockets. So if we're paying for this, you're going to have to wear your seatbelts. Finally, the court system said, we agree with that argument. Your constitutional law protections weigh less than the state's balancing of having to pay for all the medical care. That may happen here. At some point, the state might say, hey, we're paying for all the people who are getting the flu, and we're, hospital stays, and it's affecting other industries. And if we're paying for it, Medicare and Medicaid, then yes, we're going to ask you to get a flu shot, and then now we're not going to ask. We're going to say, you want to work for us in the public hospitals, you have to get one. And then the court system might say, you know what, they have a point. They have statistics to show that the flu is costing our state an extra $50 million in medical care a year. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we are going to make it mandatory. So, there is no answer now. But the more statistics that come out that show that it's costing our state millions of dollars, then maybe the legislation might finally get through. And you know what, the way it is with legislation.
It is three big words: to be continued.
To be continued.
All righty. What do you have coming up on today's verdict?
On today's verdict, we've been handling. We ended up doing a lot of workers' compensation issues. Mm-hmm. I thought that was very interesting. Great last show on sexual harassment in public places. Men and women who rub up against other people in the subways and on the streets, improper touching. What you can do to prevent this from happening. Groups that are coming to your defense. That was last show, and we're going to have a couple of issues coming. We have the president of the New York State Trial Lawyers coming on in a couple of weeks, talking about the agenda of the trial lawyers. So, got a lot of good things coming up in the next month, 2 months on today's verdict.
Good to be back with you, David Lesh.
Nice to see you.
All righty. Well, we encourage you to stay right here with us because there's going to be more Open coming up right after this.
Chill out. Don't tell me to chill out when you're stealing my things.
You're calling us
I wouldn't have to raise my voice if you would just give it back and stop being like a criminal.
I don't have your cell phone.
Oh God, look at yourself. What are you offering?
Is this a thief's uniform? You see all these people standing around here? Why am I the one?
I'm sorry, homie. Okay?
What?
Don't make this a big deal. Just give it back, okay?
Did you see me?
Yes, and I just know you took it.
Where are your
yourself.
witnesses?
Look at
Where are your witnesses? What? Did you see me?
Hey, you left us in the bathroom.
Let's celebrate the gateway to America. It's the 7th annual Viva Bronx Festival, Sunday, October 2nd from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. between 144th and 149th Street in the Grand Concourse. This is at Hostos Community College, featuring great artists with crafts, food, and activities for the whole family. Celebrate Viva Bronx, Sunday, October 2nd from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. between 144th and 149th Street in the Grand Concourse.
And we welcome you back here to Open. Daren Jaime with you. And before we continue with the show, we want to let you know that on Friday, September 23rd and Saturday, September 24th, four-time Grammy nominee percussionist Bobby Sanabria and his ensemble are conducting free percussion and Latin jazz performances at the Mind Builders Creative Arts Center. Now, Mind Builders Creative Arts Center is located at 260 East 207th Street, in the Bronx. If you want more information, once again, call 718-652-6256. Once again, Bobby Sanabria and the ensemble, free percussion and Latin jazz performances. Be sure to go on out and get your Latin jazz performance Friday, Saturday, September 23rd and 24th at the Mind Builders Creative Arts Center on East 207th Street. You see the number at the bottom of your screen, 718-652-6256. Well, founded in 1992, the Friends of Van Cortlandt Park, working together with the New York City Parks Department, is dedicated to the improvement and conservation of Van Cortlandt Park. One of the ways they do this is through volunteerism. And this weekend, the Friends of Van Cortlandt Park are beginning their fall volunteer season in union with Climate Week NYC. Now, Executive Director Christina Taylor is here now to give us all the details on their upcoming Fall Restoration Volunteer Kickoff. And we welcome Christina to the show. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So you have this great fall weekend,
Yes.
and it's Fall Kickoff weekend for the volunteers. Share with us about this whole volunteer campaign.
Okay. So the Friends of Van Cortlandt Park, we're a very small nonprofit with a staff of 3. Currently we have 4 seasonally. And we really count on our volunteers to get work done in the park. Last year we had about 1,600 volunteers that came out. Most of them were one-shot volunteers, but we appreciate all the help that we get. And we work on forest and trail restoration projects. So without our volunteers, we really wouldn't be able to accomplish what we accomplish. So each season, for the spring and the fall, are busy volunteer seasons. We do a kickoff event where we're hoping to have at least 100 volunteers out in the park that day at 3 different locations throughout the park, and volunteers will be helping us remove non-native invasive plants and planting native trees and shrubs in the park.
So you're searching all over for volunteers, I take it?
Yeah, we want volunteers. We want as many people to come out on that day as we can get, and then we're hoping that once they come out and volunteer with us once, they'll kind of get hooked and come back again.
So as we talk about the weekend, obviously it's a big weekend for you guys. Talk about some of the other things that are going on this weekend.
Well, our big thing this weekend is the kickoff event. So we have 3 different meeting locations, and you can find all that information out on our website. And from 10 to 1, volunteers can come out and join us and be prepared to get dirty and lend a hand to the park.
Any special requirements at all?
Being willing to get dirty. There's a chance of rain, so being able to work out in the rain.
Okay.
We work rain or shine unless it's torrential downpours. And just be able to have fun working out in the park.
Share with us about working out in the park, because obviously you're out there and you've got some people who are out there working with you. From your experiences, describe just the whole experience of working in the park.
For a lot of the people that come for us, it's their first time doing such work, and they don't really know what to expect. But once they get into it, they really do enjoy it. It's hard work, it's physical labor, but it's a lot of fun, and the groups that we get and the people that we get to volunteer are just wonderful people. So it really does end up being a really fun experience.
And we're taking a look at some pictures right here, right behind it. We'll see. So share with us a little bit about what we're watching.
So that is our trails, some of the members of our trails crew, and that's definitely our hardcore volunteers. They come out once a month and do really physically demanding projects. This was actually taken early September, right after we had those 2 hurricanes, Irene and Lee, come through, and it caused a lot of damage on the Cascalier Trail in the park. So they were out there. We went out about a week later, and there was still standing water in the on the trail. So they went out and dug drainage ditches and really helped to drain out that trail and make it passable for people.
And what we're seeing here is?
That's one of our tree planting events. So that actually was taken at last year's fall kickoff. So when you come out and volunteer with us, not only will you get a chance to remove non-native invasive plants, but you also get a chance to plant trees. And with our volunteers, we usually plant about 2,000 trees a year.
2,000?
Yep, throughout the park.
Wow. How intense is this tree planting? Because we see a lot of trees go up, and we know that there are a lot of trees out there. How intense is it to really get that tree in there?
It's a lot of fun for people. I mean, it's something that they can actually come back and see. And we've had a pretty high success rate with our trees that we plant in the park. Probably about 90% of those trees that we plant do survive. So if you plant a tree, you can come back as long as you can find in the forest where that tree is and actually see your tree grow over the years. And I've been with the Friends for 10 years, and it's a lot of fun to see a tree that you planted, it was like 2 or 3 feet tall when you planted it to be, 12 feet tall now.
Right. So you got a 2-foot tree that actually blossoms out into a 12-foot tree. You could be a part of this whole tree planting experience, and then a whole lot more at this fall volunteer kickoff. It's taking place this weekend, and you guys are encouraging anybody and everybody to come on out.
Anyone who's willing and able to come on out and just see what it's like. And if you don't, it's not for you, that's fine, but give it a shot because I think you'll like it.
You also have some other things going on over at the Friends of Van Cortlandt Park. Why don't you share a little bit about it?
Oh, yeah, Friends do a lot of different things. We do also volunteer programs, but we'd also do a lot of environmental education programs. So if you have a school group that wants to come out and do a tour of the park or learn about the environment, we do activities like that. We do a lot of community programs. Next month, we're actually doing a Halloween event, which used to be really popular in Van Cortlandt Park, and we haven't done one in the last couple of years, but we're going to bring Halloween back to Van Cortlandt. So the Ghoul Pool, we're calling it this year, is on October 29th, so that's something people should look out for. But we do a lot of events for the general public, and we just want to get people into the park and to really appreciate all the beauty that Van Cortlandt Park has to offer.
I think about former Vice President Al Gore, and he's very much about nature and climate and worried about, global warming and things like that. Are you finding that more and more people are becoming more environmentally conscious these days?
I hope so. We have found that our increase in volunteer numbers have really grown over the years. In the last couple of years, they've quadrupled. We used to only get about 400 volunteers a year, and we're up to about 1,600 now. So I'm not quite sure if that's because people are taking more of an interest in the environment or people are just more interested in volunteering. I mean, whichever it is, I like it. Keep on coming out to the park. But definitely, I think people are more aware of the environment and how important it is to preserve it. And we're lucky here in the Bronx. We have more parkland than any other borough, but we need to take care of that parkland.
To you, what makes the park so distinct?
Van Cortlandt Park? Van Cortlandt Park, it's a real natural park. It's not man-made or landscaped park once you get into the forest. Van Cortlandt's 1,146 acres, and about half of that is forested areas. And there's still, I just did a hike this Saturday, and I pointed out to the people, we got to one point where you couldn't hear anything. You couldn't hear any traffic.
Right.
And there still are parts in Van Cortlandt Park that you can do that. You can completely escape the city, and that's valuable, I think.
I remember running track and had to run through the little track path, and somewhere out there you felt like you were in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly, yeah,
and
it's amazing.
Really, you were like looking for help because I was kind of slow on my track run. It's a beautiful park, but then I think sometimes it's kind of misgiving because a lot of people don't know about how deep the forestry is.
Yeah, a lot of people are not willing to go deep into the woods, and I try to promote it, and that's one thing we're trying to do with our Trails Initiative. We're trying to make the trails more user-friendly, more appealing to people, to really get people out there and to realize that Van Cortlandt Park can truly be a hiking destination in New York City. You don't have to travel out of the city to go hiking. You can do it right here.
Okay, pretty interesting. So, Christina, give people the information so that if they want to find out more about this.
They can visit our website, vancortlandt.org, or give us a phone call at 718-601-1553 if they want to come out on the 24th, or if they want to find out about any of our other volunteer educational programs.
Talk a little bit before we leave about the Trails Restoration Crew, and then we'll leave on that note.
Yeah, the Trails Restoration Crew, we're wrapping up for this season, but for next year, we're really looking for more people who are willing to come out on a once a month basis, and it's an opportunity to really learn trail building skills from experts. We work with the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference, so they bring out their experts, and if you want to really learn some skills that can be applied to various careers, it's a good opportunity.
All right, so many things to take advantage of, and we invite you to be a part of it. And as we said, it's taking place this weekend. You can be a volunteer. You can find out all the information that you need to find out. And if you contact Christina or the Friends of Van Cortlandt Park, I'm sure they will be gladly appreciative. And thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Good to have you. Good to have you. Alrighty, Christina is here with us here on Open, and we want to encourage you to stay with us because we got a whole lot more coming up ahead. But right now, for young African American women, it's an event that focuses on your health, and the premise is that it's never too early for breast screening. One of our very own sat down with the woman behind it all, and we'll have that interview coming up right after this. Hey!
Please, stand back, sir. We're just dumping a little extra sewage here. I hope those shoes aren't new. Oh, God.
Look at this guy. What are you gonna do, kid? Go home. It's hopeless. Yeah, dude, do something with your life. Leave. You're looking stupid, man. Give it up.
Let's celebrate the gateway to America. It's the 7th annual Viva Bronx Festival, Sunday, October 2nd from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. between 144th and 149th Street in the Grand Concourse. This is at Hostos Community College, featuring great artists with crafts, food, and activities for the whole family. Celebrate Viva Bronx, Sunday, October 2nd from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. between 144th and 149th Street in the Grand Concourse.
And welcome back to Open, and we want you to remember this is a live and interactive talk show, so we encourage you, join in on our conversation. All you got to do, pick up the phone, give us a call, 718-960-7241, or you can just send us an email to open@bronxnet.org, and we will open up your emails right here on the show, and we'll probably get a response to you as well. Our Bronxnet correspondent, Sylvia Anglin, had the pleasure of sitting down with Dr. Katie Ann Joseph. She's the Director of Breast Services at South Manhattan Network to discuss the Breast Cancer Women in Color Conference. The conference is actually taking place on Saturday, this coming Saturday, September 24th, educating women in the African American community on the importance of breast cancer screening as well as early detection. We'll take a look at the exclusive interview with Sylvia and the doctor right now.
Now, in its 5th year, the Women of Color Conference has educated women, especially those in the African American community, on the importance of breast cancer screening and early detection. Dr. Kathy Ann Joseph and her team have educated women on what they can do to reduce their risk, at what age should they start going for a mammogram, and what should they do if they have a history of cancer in their family. With us now to talk about breast cancer and awareness and an upcoming Women of Color Conference is Dr. Kathy Ann Joseph. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to discuss first and foremost breast cancer and its effect on the African American community.
Well, first of all, we all know, or the perception is that breast cancer is a white woman's disease. And in some respects, it's true. The incidence of breast cancer is far greater in white women than it is in African American women. But what most people don't appreciate is that the burden of breast cancer is far greater in the African American community. So even though we've made so much progress, I mean tremendous progress in the treatment for breast cancer, and women are living so much longer and more women are surviving as a whole, for African American women, we're not benefiting from that. So whereas the survival for women as a group is close to 90%, that's not the case for African American women. And so that gap is about 10% less, if not greater.
Have you had an opportunity to evaluate the factors why the incidence of breast cancer is higher in African American women, and I guess the mortality rate is higher in African American women? Is there any studies, or is there any additional information?
Yeah, it's the survival rate that's greater, not so much the incidence, and the mortality rate is greater, and it's several factors. It's not just one thing that sort of contributes to that. We used to just say in the beginning that it was the socioeconomic factors, that it's because of poverty and lack of access to care, and that's true. That definitely plays a role. If you are uninsured, if you don't have the money, and all of these things are competing for your time when you have children and so forth, you're not, your health is going to go down the list in terms of priorities. So that's definitely contributing to this problem. But we now have found that there's another component to this problem, and that's biology. That's the tumor biology itself. And so even when you control for socioeconomic status, the other problem is that the biology of tumors in many of these women are just more aggressive. There's something called triple negative cancers. That's something that's becoming, we see that more and more in the news. And it's not just specific to African American women, but more African American women are likely to develop these tumors. And they're just simply more aggressive. And what that means is that when when I'm a surgeon and I operate on a woman and I remove that tumor gets tested for certain receptors. And one is estrogen, one is progesterone, and one is HER2. So those three. And if they're negative for all three, that's called triple negative. And what that means, the significance of that is we can't give them hormonal therapy like tamoxifen or Arimidex, and we can't give them Herceptin. And that's a monoclonal antibody that would block the HER2 receptor. Okay. And so what that means is that all we can do is give that patient chemotherapy. That's it. And that person has, as a group, that group of patients have a far worse survival. And so
these triple negative tumors are difficult to treat, but what about early detection?
Sure. So it's not a lost cause. Early detection will certainly put you at a greater advantage in terms of fighting fighting breast cancer, even the triple negatives. So it doesn't mean just because you have a triple negative breast cancer, you're doomed to mortality and doomed to dying. Early detection certainly will save lives. So I can't stress that enough. You got to get that mammogram. So I tell my patients, go for your mammogram and go for it annually. You can't just say, oh, I got it 5 years ago. You got to go every year.
So with mammograms in the news, there's constant changing information. At this age, you should start getting a mammogram. Yeah. We've determined that it's this age that you should get a mammogram, or you should only get a mammogram every year, every 2 years, every 5 years. Where are we at right now?
Well, I think that if you talk to most breast surgeons, and definitely the American Cancer Society, the American Society of Breast Surgeons, most the national radiological groups, most will still agree that 40 is the age to start start imaging. There was some controversy about whether you should start at 40 or 50, but most breast surgeons, most oncologists will agree, ASCO will agree, start at 40. If you have a family history, you really have to discuss with your doctor what age you should start, because you may have to start earlier. We generally recommend, if you have a family history, you start 10 years, start having a mammogram 10 years prior to the youngest case of breast cancer in your family. So that means that if your mom had or sister had breast cancer at the age of 42, you wouldn't start at 40. You'd probably start at 32. So it shifts a little bit. But for the average woman who doesn't have a significant family history, it's 40.
So how often do you see cases of incidences of breast cancer where there's no family history versus where there is a family history?
Most women don't have a family history. So many women think, oh, I don't have a family history, I'm not going to get breast cancer. Remember, we see it all the time on all the ads on TV. 1 in 8 women, right? 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer. So it's very common, and I'm sure most women know someone, whether it's a friend, a co-worker, a family member that has had breast cancer. So you don't have to have a family history. We hear so much now about something called the BRCA mutation, or it's called a genetic mutation that gives you a predisposition to getting breast cancer. I treat a lot of women like that because I have interest in women who are high risk. But that only makes up 10% of all breast cancers. It's a small population. So all women are at risk. All women. And so that's why there's no population that shouldn't get a mammogram. I just say, as long as you're, so I have patients say, well, at what age do I stop? You don't stop. As long as you can get up and lift up that breast and put it on the machine, you go for that mammogram.
So we've discussed this detection and what age should we sign up to get a mammogram, or just push based on our family history. Healthcare system. A lot of people may not get a mammogram because they don't think, I know the insurance companies cover a mammogram, but a lot of people don't have health care, or the health care that they have is lacking, or there are gaps. What can people do if they need to get tested and they need a mammogram, no health care?
Well, I can tell you that in New York City, many of the major hospitals do have programs that will pay for free screening. So what you can do is call your local hospital and find out about the free screening programs. NYU has it, Columbia has it, Mount Sinai has it. All of the major hospitals have it here in New York, and I'm sure Einstein has it too here in the Bronx. You don't have to disclose what your citizenship status is or your social security number. And the nice thing about many of these programs is, if you are unfortunately diagnosed with breast cancer, they will cover your treatment all the way through, whether if you need reconstruction, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, etc. So I would say either call the hospitals, call Susan G. Komen, or call the local American Cancer Society. They can direct you to the right place. And so not having insurance should not deter you, because there's so much funding out there that will cover this. And I treat so many women who come through these programs, and that's what's the nice thing about it, that I don't have to worry about those issues because it's covered. And you can get emergency Medicaid. That's a New York State requirement, that if you are diagnosed with breast cancer, you can be covered under emergency Medicaid for your breast cancer treatment.
That's actually an interesting fact, because I wasn't aware, and I'm sure the viewers at home were not aware of this. So I noticed that there's a Breast Cancer and Women in Color conference coming up on the 24th of September. Can you walk me through this conference? What will be presented? What will be discussed at this conference?
Sure. This is something that is very near and dear to my heart. I started this several years ago with some close colleagues of mine because I was concerned about so many of my patients coming in with locally advanced breast cancer, and I wanted to come up with a different way of reaching out to my patients and to other women to educate them about breast cancer. And it's become such a wonderful event that we can educate women, and it's also a fun day. This is being held September 24th in Midtown Manhattan at Club 101. It's not a disco, it's actually a very nice venue. It's 101 Park Avenue and East 40th Street. It's free of charge, 8:30 to 1 o'clock, and we're going to have a lot of physicians and healthcare providers as well as survivors who will talk about their experiences, and we have a lot of information to provide.
Will there be an opportunity to be screened or have a mammogram?
No, not at that time, but we will definitely provide information as to where you can go for screening.
So this might be a great resource, as we discussed, with finding your local hospital.
Yes.
And finding the various avenues that you need to take to either prevention, detection, and treatment.
Absolutely. This is the place to come to get all that information.
Okay, so if people want more information on this, what website should they visit?
They can visit the NYU Cancer Institute website, and they can actually register there. It's free, but we do ask if you can to register. It's www.nyuci.org/RSVP.
Okay, and is there a phone number that they can reach out to you at, or is it best just to visit the website?
You can visit the website, yes.
Perfect. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere, because there's more right after this.
According to estimates, over 1 billion people live in appalling levels of poverty. Denied even basic standards of food, water. Nearly half of the world's population earns less than.
Right here. Hey, I remind you, gentlemen, the fact is, sir, that we requested that information. That wasn't enough. Then I come from here to get that wasn't enough. Keep organizing. Give this thing. Don't look at the documents. There's no chance that you can learn. Cost any money.
Way over the button.
We're all here in black and white. Last January, you have a point to make. Right, you're not paying attention. You're the people who are not paying attention. Just sat on
I have something to say.
Let's celebrate the gateway to America. It's the 7th annual Viva Bronx Festival, Sunday, October 2nd from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. between 144th and 149th Street in the Grand Concourse. This is at Hostos Community College, featuring great artists with crafts, food, and activities for the whole family. Celebrate Viva Bronx, Sunday, October 2nd from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. between 144th and 149th Street in the Grand Concourse.
So glad to have you back here with us here on Open. Daren Jaime with you. Glad to tell you that we're an interactive talk show, so stay with us. If you feel free to send us an email to open@bronxnet.org. We, of course, open it up right here on the show. The Bronx River Alliance serves as the leading voice for the Bronx River and works to improve as well as restore that it can only be both there should be a healthy and recreational resource, but also serve its purpose educationally. For the past 10 years, they've done just that. and they plan on celebrating this milestone with an uptown soiree. But before we speak with the executive director, here's a video of the Bronx River Alliance.
Hey, you know me.
Way up here on top of New York.
I'm the Bronx. Home to Edgar Allan Poe.
J-Lo. Tats Crew.
Babe Ruth.
Birthplace of hip-hop.
I'm from Italy and Jamaica.
Ghana and Puerto Rico.
People all around the world know me, or they think they do.
I was once a symbol of urban decay. But I bet you don't know about my greatest hidden treasure. The Bronx River.
The Bronx River is an oasis in my busy borough.
It gives us water and shade.
Wildlife and wild rides.
It gives us a place to play and relax.
Don't get me wrong.
Things have been bad on the Bronx River.
For years, it was a dumping ground.
You couldn't even swim in it.
People wouldn't even touch it.
They called it an open sewer.
And soon they started forgetting about it altogether.
But not everybody forgot.
That's how the Bronx River Alliance was born, as a small band of locals who got together to clean things up.
They hauled out over 70 cars.
5,000 tires.
They planted trees and made paths and parks.
They gave the river a voice at community meetings, in government, on the streets.
They reminded people that the river was still theirs.
So you're probably asking, who needs a river anyway?
We do.
There are so many obstacles in our way. We need the Bronx River.
The Bronx has the highest unemployment in New York.
It is one of the poorest counties in the nation.
It still has some of the highest rates of asthma and obesity in our country. We need the water and sunshine. We need the water and sunshine.
We need a place to escape the traffic.
To run and ride.
And we've got it right here.
On the Bronx River.
So yeah, I'm the Bronx.
I'm a whole lot of things.
I'm the first canoe ride of spring.
I'm a quiet walk by the riverbank.
I am communities discovering their voice.
I am green jobs and greenways and nature being reborn right here, all around you.
I am the Bronx River.
I am the Bronx.
I am the Bronx.
Yo soy el río de Bronx.
I am the Bronx River.
I am the Bronx River.
I am the Bronx River.
There you see a little bit about the Bronx River, and there you saw the video that lets you know from where they've come and where they are right now. And here to tell us about their accomplishments the past 10 years and what they have in their agenda for the next 10 is Executive Director Linda Cox. And Linda, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And I know we've got a little feedback here, but we got that taken care of. But talk to us a little bit about this, because you said, as they said, 10 years. We've seen it from up, down, and rebound. Share with us about this.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic 10 years for the Bronx River Alliance. And we look back at how far we've come. Mm-hmm. This was a river that either you didn't know this river was here at all, or if you knew it, you thought it was, as I said, an open sewer, just degraded. And not so long ago it was, but we have done so much cleanup. We've done so much improvement, planting along the river. We've planted, over the last 10 years, we've planted 85,000 trees and shrubs and plants. Yep, that's what it takes to really turn your river around into something that you can really prize and enjoy. Mm-hmm. And so we feel really good about how far we've come.
And changing the water, I mean, looking at where it was before, and really to get it to where it was, and to see in the video, actual tires being lifted out of there.
You bet.
It's been a long journey.
Yes, yes it has. And that work still goes on.
Yes.
We have the fabulous conservation crew that works out there 5 days a week. They're out there 5-6 days a week, along with bringing in a lot of volunteers, a lot of trainees for green jobs, a lot of school groups come and help us, and it takes all of that. It takes all the Bronx to make this effort, to replant, to clean up, to restore the stability of the bank, so that we have a river that's really good for us as people, and also good for wildlife, like our beavers, for example, that we have on the Bronx River.
Share with us about the upcoming event.
We're very excited about it. To celebrate our 10th birthday, which comes this fall, we are honoring 4 of the founders of the Bronx River Alliance, who really were smart enough and had enough vision 10 years ago to put together this organization to sort of represent the interests of all New Yorkers in bringing back the river. So next Tuesday, September 27th, we're going to be celebrating at the New York Botanical Garden with our upstream soiree. And the people will be honoring in particular, as I said, our 4 founders. Of course, many people put their energies into founding the Bronx River Alliance, but the 4 that we're honoring, I think, kind of speak to what the effort has been. And we've got Jenny Hoffner, who was really the coordinator, who went around to folks and said, do you want to be involved in this? Do you want to be working on the Bronx River? And she was met with everything from, what river? To, oh yeah, I want to. Pull groups together so they could each find their own place in working on this. She's coming up from Atlanta for this celebration. Majora Carter, who is famous for having really rediscovered the river in her own backyard one day when she walked down to the dead-end street after Jenny had called her, and with her dog, and kind of looked behind mounds of tires and debris that had been left there, looked back there and went, here's the river, and this could make a great park. And she really worked to create a great park there, Hunts Point Riverside Park, where before it was just a dead-end street with a lot of construction debris. She's become a voice for this kind of community-based revitalization work around the world. So she is another of our founders that we'll be honoring. Alexi Torres Fleming founded Youth Ministries for Peace and Justice, an organization that even to this day organizes youth to represent the interests of their community and make it better. She is another founder of the Bronx River Alliance, and in fact was the first chair of the Alliance, and she's going to be honored. And then Dart Westfall, who's been a voice for environmental quality throughout the Bronx, and particularly active on creating greenways and working on bike paths throughout the Bronx. Another founder of the Bronx River Alliance will be honoring him as well. Should be a great evening.
And down through the years, the Alliance has formed good partnerships and strategic partnerships, I guess, being able to do some of these things. Yes. Let's talk about some of the things you have here. I want to talk about the Bronx River Ecology Team.
Yeah.
And the work that they do.
Yes. You know, the ecology team advises the Alliance in how it should be moving forward and gives us just a lot of help in knowing how to go about doing it. And I think it speaks a lot about the way this works, because the ecology team is made up of people who may be very expert about ecology, but also people who are expert in knowing how to involve the community in this work. All the projects that we do really combine those things, and we're all experts here, as that big poster that Alexi Torres Fleming was showing in the video. We're all experts, and if we live here and know and care about our neighborhoods, we bring expertise to it. If we know a lot about, say, habitat requirements for wildlife, or we know how to do the technical work of stabilizing rivers, then we have expertise to bring too. The ecology team brings those things together and it really advises and guides those efforts.
We're seeing some people here. Why don't you tell us who we're seeing here?
This is really a band of the founders. And the first thing to notice is where this picture was taken. There's an old concrete plant, and in a minute we'll show you the picture of the way it looks today. And I see over there Henry Lahara on the far left from Youth Ministries for Peace and Justice, and Maricruz Padilla. Right in front in that nice blue fleece was Majora Carter, Jenny Hoffner on the other side. And here's the park today. This is the concrete plant park. Not today, actually. This picture was taken on the day it opened in 2009. Wow. There's a lot of pride in having been able to turn that space into this beautiful park.
And a lot of work. And obviously, you have to say, you laud the accomplishments of the things that are done, but you still look and say, there's still some more stuff that needs to be done.
You are so right.
What's next? What is next? You want me to bring out my laundry list now? Yeah. What's next on the list?
Well, a whole lot more parkland. We've opened like 10 acres of new parkland along the river, working with New York City Parks Department. We are due to open a whole nother piece of parkland just north of the concrete plant this spring. Starlight Park will reopen as a really magnificent park with playing fields, ball fields, playgrounds, much enhanced from what it was before it closed. Like it closed almost 10 years ago, and with a whole new path on the other side of the river, combined with a bridge, so people can take a bike or a walk across the river on this new bridge. That'll open in the spring. But our ultimate goal is to open up new parkland and connect all the parkland along the full length of the Bronx River, the 8 miles that are in the Bronx, and make sure that we actually have continuous paths going all the way up through Westchester County as well. So in 10 years, we want you to be able, Daren, to get on your bike, maybe in Soundview Park or in Hunts Point, and ride your bike all the way up to Kensico Dam at the mouth of at the source of the river, up at the north end. 23 miles, continuous passage on a path. It'll be so fun.
Wow. So tell people, how can they become a part of this Bronx River Alliance? Because you've got some people who've worked with you down through the years, and you're always looking for people to come and assist. How can they do that?
You are so right. Well, I'd say the easiest way to do that is go to our website, bronxriver.org, and take a look at the opportunities that are out there at the moment. And those include volunteer activities. We have volunteer events happening this Saturday at Soundview Park. We are doing a coastal cleanup. We'd love to have more people helping with that. We have volunteer events on October 15th and 2 weeks later in late October. People can come to the website, see what those are, and sign on. We would love to have school groups joining us and youth groups. We have an educational program that can involve them, and teachers should get in touch with us about that. And then, come to the soiree on Tuesday night.
Let's go back and throw that picture up there too. And thank you so much for sharing with us. We're going to throw it back up there so that we have an opportunity to see one more time. I said uptown earlier. It is not uptown. It is upstream.
It's
upstream,
both.
Uptown. Okay, Liz's going to help me out. It's Tuesday, September 27th. We want you to come on out and be a part of it. 2900 Southern Boulevard right there in the Bronx from 6:30 to 9 p.m. It is the Bronx River Alliance. They invite you to the Upstream Soiree. So be sure to come on out and celebrate 10 years of actually moving from, you saw the pictures, from where it was to where it is today, and even greater places. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
Enjoy it.
All righty. And unfortunately, that about brings an end to the show. It's been a pleasure coming into your homes today. Of course, we want to thank our guests for joining us, but most of all, we want to thank you, the viewer, for watching. And guess what? If you missed any part of the show, tonight, 10 p.m., there's a recablecast right here on Channel 67. Of course, if you want a brand new, fresh episode, my girl, Rhina Valentin, she'll be back with you on Friday morning at 10 a.m. Until then, we encourage you to keep your hearts, your minds, but most of all, this channel wide open. I'm Daren Jaime for all of us here on the set of Open, signing off saying take care. We'll see you soon.